Well, it's time now on the programme for Truth or Fake with James Creedon, who's with me here in the studio. James, hello to you. This is our fact-checking element of the show. We are looking at whether images you're seeing online are true or not. And you're starting off with an image of a young girl. Now, the claim is she's Palestinian and she's been injured in the conflict with Israel. What can you tell us?
That's right. So this is an image that has been circulating a lot. It was shared on Italian language Facebook, and it shows a girl, and the claim in that image is that she's Palestinian and that she was injured in bombs, by fragments of bombs that were dropped by the Israeli army. Now, in this particular instance, that's actually not true. And this particular fact-checking media in open.online, which is Italian language fact-checking, they were able to ascertain that that's not the case. And that in this particular instance, it was down to a syndrome called Sturge-Weber syndrome, which is a rare skin condition. So this was false information that was circulating online, claiming that this little girl had been injured in that particular situation. Now, this is something that comes up regularly in terms of it's been called Pallywood. That's the term that was coined. It's a sort of portmanteau of Palestinian and Hollywood. It's a coinage used to describe supposed media manipulation, distortion or fraud by Palestinians putatively designed to win the public relations war with Israel. But actually the term was coined by those who would have, I suppose, be more pro-Israel in their outlook. Right. In any case, it's very complex, and just to give you a sense of the complexity of it, this is going back to May of this year. Let's just play this particular image here. We should have some sound on it. So that particular video claims to show Palestinians in Gaza daubing fake blood and fake paint wounds on children to gain global sympathy, etc., etc., etc. So it's the claim here is that these images are part of a sort of an industry of falsification of images to gain sympathy for the Palestinian cause. In fact, those images, and this was Reuters, but various media were able to verify this. They were actually part of Doctors Without Borders, the French NGO, a campaign that they were engaged in to draw attention to the fact that there is real plight in the Palestinian territories and there are real injuries. And so this was a video actually designed to draw attention to that. So it was done and overseen. This is actually TRT, the Turkish international station.
Actors taking part in a project by French charity Doctors of the World.
So there you go. That was a project overseen by Doctors Without the World. It was in order to draw attention to the real plight and suffering, but it was passed off in that particular instance as falsification and willful misleading of the public.
Yeah, and as you say, this is clearly a complex, layered issue that you're dealing with here, and sometimes fake news can go the other way as well, where you have real images that are wrongly explained as being products of Pallywood.
Right. So the first example we saw there, that was willful misleading, that was clearly a case of somebody taking an image and presenting it as something that it was not. That particular example that we just saw there, because it is involving face paint and whatnot, you could understand that people might be confused or not willfully misled, if you like. But there are cases as well of situation where this is Deutsche Welle, the German media. Now, they draw attention to this particular image. Now, not a speck of dust on the bassinet, truly a miracle captured by a New York Times photographer without the slightest staging done, because that would be unethical, etc., etc. And this was actually an authentic image from May of this year. It was captured by a New York Times photographer, Samu Abu Elouf, and it's being presented here as something that was staged. It was not. So the whole Pallywood thing, it's very complex and certainly highly politicized and
points then clearly to the way that Palestinians and Israelis are trying to play out their conflict and win.
Exactly,
and win
it's political.
Public support.
It's political communications. It's not. I suppose, an honest effort to demonstrate fakery.
All right, really interesting. Thanks for highlighting some of that stuff to us, James. Let's move on now to another story altogether. This is images from the COP conference in Glasgow, the climate conference taking place right now. Now, these are images claiming, some people suggest, hypocrisy from climate-conscious politicians who are there. What can you tell us about this?
All right, so here we see an image. It was shared across several different Twitter accounts. A picture of 400 jets used to get to a climate change conference on reducing emissions. So again, this is something that we hear frequently about conferences and whatnot, that people are jetting in. They're being hypocritical in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, in terms of getting there in the first place. And here again, you have another hypocrisy at its best, wanton display of narcissism, while we display the devastating COVID aftermath. What a joke. Anyway, it turns out that the image was actually from New Orleans, going back to 2013, I believe. It was for people jetting in for the Super Bowl, which is obviously far more popular than COP26, apparently. And certainly it gets a lot of people jetting in for it, wherever it happens. So there again, because there's a baseline of truth in the fact that people do jet in for these conferences, and there is maybe a degree of hypocrisy, that allows for fake news to flourish in that particular context.
James Creedon, thank you very much indeed for this evening's Truth or Fake. More at the same time tomorrow of that segment here on the programme.